don't think it did it. Okay, there we go. Welcome to Live with Prima. I'm Sharon Laakkonen, and I'm here today with Magical Valentine's Day tags. And we are going to have so much fun and have a whole hour packed with information. We're going to be working with masked backgrounds. We're going to be working with a little bit of foil, stencils, stamping, and freehand painting. Don't let that scare you. Okay, so I started playing with Valentine tags, and that's how I came up with some of these techniques. Let me just zoom in so you can see that there is a masked stencil backdrop design on this, along with foiling, and you can see I added foil to leaves and flowers and the butterfly. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now this one has kind of a freehand painted masked backdrop and fun watercolors. And again, you know, we were talking about Delena's class Thursday night is going to be super cool because she's going to upcycle bits and pieces to create a love album. Well, that's what I do. I have a basket with flowers that are mixed. They just are left over from other projects. This butterfly lost its little antennas, but I didn't want to throw it away. So these tags are actually very inexpensive because I upcycled a lot of mismatched things and I kind of made them work together. All right, so let's go ahead. I want to welcome everyone. If it's your first time here, let us know. We have a chat on the live program, so you can ask questions, and we have a great moderator. And let me know if my camera isn't focusing, because sometimes it just wants to do its own thing. It's brand new to me, so I'm still trying to figure this out. Okay. All right, so when I was creating the class, I started with this premise of wanting to create my own masked backdrop. And is the volume really loud? Sorry. Let me turn that down a little bit. Okay, let me know if that's still too loud. All right? I get really excited and get in my groove and I get really loud. That's what my kids tell me. Okay, so a year ago, I had done a class with a stencil and some clear gesso. And I just applied that on a stencil, let it dry, and then sprayed it with color bloom spray and created this really cool masked backdrop. And I started going with that, but I didn't want the softer lines like clear gesso. Let me just show it to you. Sorry for blowing out your eardrums. So the clear gesso, okay, come on camera, it doesn't like white. You know that, right? So it's a little runny. So it's going to, the edges on any pattern are going to kind of melt a bit. I don't know a better word for that. So I was trying to improve on that technique. And I've also been playing with a new product. This is masking fluid. Now it comes with either in a pen or a bottle that you can use a brush to apply it. And this has a really long fine tip so you can write in the backdrop. So I've done that right here. Started with my own name, and then you let it dry, you watercolor on top, and then you can remove the masking fluid. I love that idea because it lets you preserve the white on the backdrop. Now, this was the first one I did not know how to remove the masking fluid. I started pulling it up and it tore the paper. But by the time I got down here, I realized you rub it to get it off and kind of ball it up. So it works, but it didn't. It still grabbed a bit of the background paper. So it's not a perfect technique. And sometimes I want that texture on there. So I took these two concepts and I wanted to put them together and kind of create a product that worked really, really well together. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Do you guys want me to watercolor on this one? Because I could totally show you. I mean, it's a really cool idea. It's so fun to use on our watercolor paper, and it works really, really well with the watercolor confections. Let me just try it. So I have Watercolor Confections out. I'm just grabbing the first set that was there. And I'm going to get our water brush. And this is a really thick one. It's one of our brand new ones. You know, I keep forgetting to clean my brush first. So I'm going to do that real quick. And all I do is squeeze a little bit of water, clean it out right there. All right, so for this one, we're going to go ahead and start with the pinks. And you know what I should have done was apply a bit of water to this first. I think sometimes prepping the watercolor paper really helps move that color around better, as you can see. And then I'm moving right across the palette here. I don't think I wanted that color all the way out to the edge, but oh well, we're going to go with it. So this is masking fluid. You can get it at any art store. And what I'm doing is using Watercolor Confections on top of it. Is that showing up? You can see the confections bubble up on top of the masking fluid. It's very glossy. Let's get a touch of yellow down here. All right, if you think you got too much color, you know the trick. You can always go in with a paper towel and kind of dab off some of the color, which I'm going to do just on the edges. And then I can never leave anything alone. Anyone else like that? I always got to go in and fix things. All right, that's the masking fluid. I'm just going to set this aside to dry, and we'll come back to that later. I have that one already prepped, so we're going to be doing a lot of these step outs where we paint, and we will come back. So I also have a tag. Let me just grab it real quickly. I'm going to do this for you, but I have one dry already. So I'm going to take the clear gesso and my stencil, and this is a brand new stencil, and I love this one. Aren't those birds cute? Let me just get some paper towel down. It's so much easier to pick that up than it is to wipe off the whole backdrop. And I know this is a lot of white on white. So if you're doing a tag, and that's what this one is right here, I put the stencil and I just butted up the edge of the tag to the stencil. And it left that nice area down there for the little sentiment rub-on. Okay, so I have that on here. We're going to go ahead and take our clear gesso. If you don't have this stencil, you absolutely need to get it. It really is a beautiful, beautiful stencil. And what I'm going to do is just take a bit of that clear gesso and I'm going to apply it over the stencil. I am not the neatest person doing this. I'm sure yours will be so much better. The only area I really want perfect is where the birds are. I don't really want to crease through the bird, so I usually go back and smooth that out really well. You know why stencils are so cool with this technique? They give you the cutest patterns and you hardly use any product. Okay, so I've put the clear gesso on. I'm going to pull that up and I have the tag done. How cool is that? It's the most beautiful pattern ever, and you get a little bit of dimension to your page. So you want to let that dry. I smooth off the edges with my finger and then I just let it air dry. So we're going to let that air dry. And you do want to clean off your stencil pretty quickly because it is an art medium. It will dry on there. Let me do that real quickly. I'm just going to get a bit of water right here and just get most of it off. We're going to keep using this stencil, so I'm not going to stress too much about it. All right, there we go. So we have it done and it's dried. And you can see I wrote clear gesso down here, so you can see That's how it dries. It's kind of a matte finish. So we're going to go ahead and go in with our watercolors. And I'm not sure what color set I want to use. You guys have the watercolor Confections yet? Anybody? Oh my gosh, they're so addicting. I should be opening them up on camera. That one's Decadent Pies. It's absolutely stunning. Very soft muted tones. This one is the Basics. And then we have Tropicals over here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Basics and try to recreate some of the colors I had on my original tag. There's no guarantee I'm going to do that. So I have a mixing well over here. And I know I used a lot of the pinks and oranges. Oh yeah, that's really red. Good thing I tested it first, right? Maybe a bit more pink and a little bit of yellow. So what I'm going to do is just start applying this to the tag. It looks much darker in the tin than it does on camera, doesn't it? Don't let that scare you. So I have prepped the tag pretty much, and now I'm just going to go in and kind of add touches of color here and there. Well, that was way too much, Sharon. And I talk to myself when I craft. Anybody else do that? My kids will come up and say, Mom, is someone in there with you? No, it's just me talking to myself. Okay, I think I got too much color. So you know that little trick? You can go in with your paper towel and just dab it up. I kind of like this blended look right here. And this is what I have found out, is that I do think the colors dry a little bit lighter than what you see. So keep that in mind too. I'm going to add just a touch of the white and the pink up here. I think this is good. I might have a little bit too much yellow down there, but I'm not going to stress about that. All right, so what I would do with that clear gesso backdrop now is just let it dry naturally. And then you would go back in and wipe off the color from the clear gesso areas, which I'm going to dab the birds just so you can see it in action. Okay, so you can see how that works. So we're going to come back and go through these different techniques, the masking fluid, the clear gesso, and we're going to keep doing this, and then we can compare them side by side to show you how these different items work together. Now the clear gesso, that was with a stencil. With this sample, I took our ink and layer stamps, and I used the solid ones. I just put the clear gesso on there and stamped. It smooshes around a little bit. You're not going to get the best lines, but my goal was to create kind of clouds with this one. And you can see I watercolored, and it did take most of the color off of that stamped image pretty well. So I think that was a success with that product. So then you could actually go in and finish stamping the different layers of the flower, or make clouds like I did. Okay, so another project, I was painting in our coloring book. This is one of the designs in there, and I took the clear gesso. I'm just going to do it on top of the one I already did. And I took a paintbrush, and I just went in and added that clear gesso right on the areas I wanted to stay white. Now I did 2 coats, and I let each one dry. Then I watercolored over the whole image and let that dry, and then I went back and rubbed off the coloring from the areas where I added the clear gesso. And you know, it worked, but it didn't work the best. I was disappointed because some of the colors stayed on. Let me just zoom in real quick. Some of the colors stayed on, and I really rubbed too hard, and some of the paper started tearing. And I thought there has got to be a better way to create this masked resist on your backdrop. Okay, and so the next step I thought was, you know what, I think the clear gesso is too matte. It's not glossy enough. So what I did then is I took the clear gesso and I took some gel. And don't ask me why I didn't take the gloss gel. I didn't have it with me when I was doing this. Because I think the gloss gel is really cool. I think that would be great with this. But what we're going to do is create a formula between the gesso and the gel. The gel, you don't want to use that as the only item to kind of create this masked background, because what it is going to do is it's going to be too sticky. It's going to be more like an adhesive, and you really don't want that. All right, let me grab my paper towel again. Then we have less area to clean up later. So I have my clear gesso, I have my gel, and you know what? I already used the stencil. Let me try this technique on just a piece of watercolor paper. This is from our 6x6 watercolor paper pad right here. It is 847722. And what I'm going to do is take a paintbrush and freehand something. Now you could pencil it in and then try it. I should mix it up first, right? So let me take a little bit of the clear gesso and an equal amount of the gel. That looks pretty good. And I'm just going to mix it up. And what I was hoping for when I did this is to get the great properties from both of them. So the clear gesso, which acts as a primer and also a base, as well as the gel kind of providing a bit more stability and a bit more gloss so that it can resist that color better. Let me get these out of the way. Okay, so we have our mixture right here, and we're just going to have fun with it. And again, you could apply this over a stencil, you could use it with a stamp, or you could create a design with it. So let me go ahead. Oh my, my brush is a little stiff. I'm going to go ahead and just freehand a heart. And I did really mix a lot of this up. And I know this is white on white, but I'm hoping the camera catches kind of the glossy wet areas. I don't know what that is. Okay, so I actually think I went back and did some fine details with a smaller brush. But basically, you see the premise. Go in, you can freehand a heart, you can make stars, you could use a smaller brush and do your name. It's okay if it kind of has a bit of a ridge on the side, which happens if you get too much on your brush. I would do 2 coats of this and then let it dry. Okay, so magically I've already done that. Let me find it. Well, I guess I did. It's somewhere here, but I also did it with, and I wrote out Prima. So I did 2 coats and let it dry. And what we're going to do now is go in with the watercolor and show you how this worked. What do you guys think? You think it's going to work better than just the clear gesso? It does. I'm just sealing up my bottles real quickly so things don't dry out on me. Let's go ahead and pick some watercolors again. We're going to go with bolder colors. They show up better. Carrie says, pick bold colors, pick bold colors. So I'm going to clean the brush a bit, and let's go over here with the purple, right? I like to prep it. I think it helps get that watercolor moving better. So let's see. I have some purple started right here. I love my mixing wells. And let's do main purple in the middle. And then we can start moving some of these other colors into it. Maybe a little turquoise. So we want the boldest color in the center. Am I going off camera with that palette? Sorry about that. And then we'll start mixing in some other colors here. And I really want it moving. I squirted out a bit more water there. And I think up here, no, we don't want green. I'm going to stick with purple. There we go. Okay, so I can tell you right now, I can see the color bubbling up on the word that I painted. So I can tell right away it's working better. Does anybody have any questions right now about this step? The first step was just clear gesso with nothing else on it. The next step, which is what we just mixed up, was soft gel and clear gesso together. And I freehanded a heart as an example, but I already had one done and dried that says Prima. And we're going to let that dry. We'll come back to all of these steps. Let me just scoot these out of the way. We'll come back to all of them, the masking fluid, the clear gesso plus the soft gel, and we'll show you in the end how they all work. All right, so our next step, I took that, and this was one of the coloring book samples I was just playing around with for a demo, and I had already colored some of the wording, but part of it was not done. And I took that same mixture, and I went in here and I started painting the white areas where I wanted the backdrop to stay white. And I love how it worked. It actually worked really well. There were a couple areas where I thought it kind of soaked a bit of the color in, but for the most part, you can see how it did create a really nice masked resist area. So that's just another sample. All right. We are actually going to do the third technique next. I mixed way too much of that other stuff up. So let me just clear that off of the stamping block. And okay, so my quest was to improve it even more because I thought it still retained a little bit of that color. I know I can make this better. So I took clear gesso again, and this time I took the 3D gloss gel. And why I didn't do that in the beginning, I don't know. Because when you're going to paint, you don't want a 3D. You want it to be looser so it can flow better. However, these two products just are amazing. So, and what I did is I took equal parts. This time I won't mix quite so much. So there's my clear gesso. And then we're going to go in and get the 3D gloss gel. And this is very, very thick. And it does create different properties mixed together. It is definitely a gel. So just mixing it gives you a very weird looking product. I thought it was. And you know, I really think I created this so that I could have a clear resist masked technique, but you could totally do something else with this if you wanted, like color it or whatever. You can see how it's holding its shape. So what I'm going to do is take a tag from my tag book, and I am going to take a new stencil. I have this really cute rose one. I love, love, love this one. And again, if you want to put a sentiment at the bottom, which I do, just use that strip right there and put it flush at the bottom of the tag. So I'm looking at where the roses are. I want to kind of get a nice mix in there. There's kind of a bald spot right there, but I think that's okay. I think I'll put my butterfly there. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and pull some of this up, and you know, hold your stencil as flat as you can onto the watercolor paper, but don't stress if any leaks out. We aren't going for perfection as much as we are going for fun, right? And you're probably going to be the only one who even notices it if anything gets underneath the stencil. I'm not going to tell anyone. All right, so let's scrape off the extra. And again, you'll want to clean your stencil because this, once you get gel mixed in it, it is like an adhesive, so it will affect your stencil. And look at that. I got a really, really beautiful rose pattern with a lot more dimension than the other one that just used clear gesso, which is right here. You can see that kind of melted. Okay, camera, pick it up. This one's going to hold its shape way better. So again, clean off your sides with your finger and then let that air dry. And while that's air drying, I am going to just clean up the stencil a little bit. And my stamping block. And I already have one dry so we can get straight into coloring it. Just like the baking shows, right? So I'm putting all these samples I'm doing live right behind me, and if I sit down, I'm going to be in big trouble. I'm going to sit right on it. So someone remind me not to sit down. Okay, we have everything basically cleaned up, so let's get going on the fun. So here is a tag that I already did that same technique with, and it is all dry. It has a really nice shimmer to it, so I think it's really going to resist nicely. So let's go ahead and pick some really bold colors for this one as well. Let me see. I think this one has the most, the Classics has the best pinks and reds in it. So we're going to go with that. We're going to do a really, really fun red. So what I did for this is I just picked up a touch of the red from the palette and the Confections and squeezed water out. And that really helps me prime that watercolor paper. And then what I can do is go back in and add touches of color here and there and just let it seep into each other and kind of create a really cool watercolor effect. This one's going bold, okay? I've kind of been softer on some of my others, but I'm thinking this one needs to have a really cool, very drippy watercolor effect to it. How do you like that? It's really, really wet. That's the only problem with this technique. So you can see already it really resisted that color. I love it. And I'm just kind of moving that color around. So we're going to let that air dry. And this is the one with the gloss, 3D gloss gel and the gesso. So and it was equal parts of both. I think that is the magic formula right there. That one is going to work the best. And let me just show you, I have some finished samples. This one I painted last night. So I put the 3D gel plus the gesso on it, and I watercolored on top of it. It's been air drying, and now what I'm going to do is take just a bit of water on a paper towel. You can use a wet wipe, but I'm going to dab off the color that is on top of that white, and you can see it's coming off very nicely. I don't want to remove it from the actual paper, and that is a chance that you would do, but since it's raised up a bit, if I just am lightly swiping, chances are I'm probably just going to hit the embossed areas. And that's what this actually looks like. It looks like I went in and embossed all this. Is that cool? I didn't even think about that until right now. It is, but it's so much easier to do. Look how fun that is. And you don't even need a heat gun. You can just let it air dry and then go in and remove the color, and you can see how white those roses are. All right, so those are the main three formulas that we used. Well, we did use masking fluid, but Prima doesn't make that. It's just an art product, but I wanted to try it. And then we tried to duplicate that with clear gesso. And this isn't totally dry, but I can go in here and remove some of the color. And it will remove most of it. But there are certain colors. I think the yellows and oranges stick the most to the white. And you can see the actual stencil design kind of melted a little bit on the edges. It doesn't keep it clear, sharp, and defined. Okay, so this is the bird stencil with just clear gesso, and we just wiped it off so you can see it does work. It's just not perfect. Okay, so this one is a bit wet still. I think I'm going to set that aside, and what I'm going to do is try and remove this masking fluid. I told you, if you just rub it, yeah, see, I don't know what I'm doing wrong with it, but I couldn't get it to work perfectly. You think if I use, like, see, it's taking some of the paper with it. Boo! I don't like that at all. I think maybe if I use a gum eraser, it won't happen. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys are experts with masking fluid. I love the concept of it, but it's a really expensive product, and as you can tell, the results are not the best. I don't think so. Look at that. I like the other results. I like this way better. Okay, so let's just toss this one. I don't like that. I don't think it worked as well. This one's almost dry. This is the soft gel and the clear gesso. I'm going to zap it really quickly. I think that's good. So this one we just painted freehand. We mixed soft gel and clear gesso. Painted it 2 coats. And we're going to go in and just, I have a slightly damp paper towel. I know, it's like a very official tool here. I've tried wet wipes. I tried other things. It didn't quite work as well as this did. Hey, the results are actually pretty decent. Look at that. So this is with the soft gel and the clear gesso. It didn't retain as much as my first sample did. This is the one I did when I was experimenting. You can see how much pink it saved in there. So I don't know if it's the pigments I used, because I used purples this time, or I just applied it thicker. But if you want to do fluid writing with a paintbrush or create hearts or whatever, the soft gel and clear gesso equal parts, and you create this really beautiful resist. And it's so much cheaper than trying to work with masking fluid. And I think the results are better. All right, so that was the second formula we did. The third formula is that rose. It is still drying because we just did it, but I showed you I had done the 6x6 already, and I also did a tag with it. So I'm just rubbing the raised areas, and it takes off just the color that is, well, I know I'm probably pulling a little from the paper, but mainly getting the raised area. So we have that right there. So what do you think? Any questions on any of these? And this was the 3D gel and the clear gesso. Oh, and there's the heart I had painted earlier. So again, I just painted, and then once it's dry, you can go in and watercolor or I've done oil pastels with this technique. It works the best with the 3D gel and the clear gesso together. Okay, so if you guys don't have any questions, we're going to go on to one more tag and then finish that up. So we're going to let these go ahead and dry up here. All right. I pulled out a watercoloring page again because originally I wanted to white out the words and add color then on top, and I couldn't get any of these techniques to really work well with it. So this one has, I think it's the clear gesso with the gel, not the 3D, the regular gel, soft gel, because I needed to go around the words with it. I probably should have saved a little bit of that because I need to finish. I was going to show you how you can do it on a letter. So what I'm going to do is just quick mix up a little tiny bit, and we're going to go ahead and freehand paint that last letter on there and then get it to dry so that you can see how to do that. Someone's asking about the masking fluid. You can use it through a stencil, but it's not very thick. So you will have a little bit of problem with your edges. Like they don't stay defined. Unless you can find a thicker masking fluid. The ones I bought did not work as well for that. So just keep that in mind. That's why I think the 3D gel works brilliantly with stencils. So I just mixed up a bit of the gel and the clear gesso, and I am not the best painter. I'm not artistic, so that is why this technique for me is so cool, because I can use patterns other people create and then do stuff with them instead of creating my own patterns. I can just go in here and paint the words that I want white, or the images that I want white, add my bold color on top, and then let it all dry. And I'm going to create this really, really cool masked resist on the backdrop. So I've already done like the little, I'm going outside the lines now because I'm talking. I already did the little splashes up there. I did the little swirl at the bottom. But I want to go and make sure I get these letters really well. And if I was painting words or freehanding like a heart, like I said, I would do 2 coats. This time I really went outside the lines. And that is probably going to resist. So 2 coats, just so you get enough built up so it has a surface that will protect the paper. That's kind of the big thing right there. Does anybody have any questions? It's really quiet. Okay, while that is drying, I want to show you what I did on the top and bottom of this page. Someone's asking it why we can't just use gel. Well, the gel is more like an adhesive, and it gets too sticky. I feel like it dries too quickly. Adding the clear gesso kind of balances it out, and you get the best of both worlds with that. You get a medium that spreads easier, and you get kind of a primer for the page, as well as a bit of the gloss from the gel without it being too sticky in the end. So I had this die out, and I was cutting doilies with it, but I wanted to use it as a stencil. And don't tell my boss I did this. So I took the just some watercolor paper, and I used that 3D gel mixed with the clear gesso, and oh my goodness, you know, because the die is so thick, you are going to get so much dimension on this. Look at how cool that looks. All right, new purpose for your dies. Okay, I will tell you, you don't want the gel to get outside of the stencil. Even if you wipe it away, it will create a bit of a resist. And let me show you one I messed up. You know, you learn by doing this yourself. So this one, I didn't hold the dye down, and some of the product got underneath and outside, and I quickly wiped it away, but you can see it still created a bit of resist there. So on my next tag, I was much more careful. It wasn't that hard to do. Just be careful when you're applying to the edges, that's all. And hold your dye down pretty steady. And you know, what I did was I actually put two of these tags together and did one big one and then did the sides after that. Okay, so this has dried, and to clean this, you want to use a brush. Like, grab one of your kids' toothbrushes. That's never going to notice. I'm kidding. You are going to want to use a brush to get the medium out of that recessed area. Okay? So doily dyes, this is a whole new purpose for them. And as you can see, I went and added it to the top and the bottom of this page. How cool is that? And this is going to be so cool. I want to actually create a tag with this. So I have, let's see, I think I have purple and silver embellishments for this. So what do we want to go with? I know I'm going back to the blue. Well, I think it'll look really, really cool. We'll mix up a bit of the blues and just have a bit of fun with this. All right, is that camera having fits? I did not put enough water down first, but it's okay. This watercolor paper is 140-pound cold press. It is amazing. And this tag pad, my tag pad's almost gone. I need to go get another one. I use it so much. It's 3 inches by 6 1/4, and I think it creates the perfect size tag. And if it's too long or too wide, you can just trim it a little bit and create the tag size you want. I might dab off just a tiny bit here and there, basically because I love the pattern the paper towel does. Okay, can you guys see that okay? All right, so basically I have my watercolors on here, and that bumped up 3D gel clear gesso stuff is working its magic. It's so cool. Let's dry this. Okay, so someone's saying on the masking fluid, if you put clear gesso on your paper first and then do it, it doesn't pull up. I hope I'm catching that conversation correctly. I'm not just making that up. I think that's pretty good. It's almost dry. I'm going to go in with just a really damp paper towel. And ta-da! Seriously, that white just went brilliant white with just a touch of water. So my last formula with the 3D gloss gel plus the clear gesso mixed half and half. Perfect, perfect, beautiful dimension. Glossy enough it doesn't hold any of that color. Look at that. It looks like it's embossed with ultra thick embossing powder. All right, so what we're going to do is get to town and start creating some of those tags, because we've spent so much time playing. We want to finish at least one tag. Okay, and this is drying, so if we do have time in the end, I might color this whole one and maybe get it up on the blog or something. I always create too much stuff and then we can never finish it. Boo. I need a longer show. Okay, so I've pulled out odds and ends. when I have scraps of watercolor paper left, I run my dies through and I cut a bunch of leaves and butterflies with them. So here we have these leaf dies that are just amazing. You have got to get them. There's like 5 or 6 different patterns. These are probably my 3 favorites. And I've already cut these out. So I have all kinds of butterflies and leaves. I throw them in a little basket just so you're not throwing things away. Use up your scraps. Okay, so I have all of these. I have a butterfly from a pack that was left over. I have a couple mismatched flowers. I just pulled out some that I thought matched. And then this is a watercolor flower that we just came out with. And it is 586812. And what we're going to do is just dump these out and pick out a flower or 2 that you think will match this color scheme we got going on here. Look, the dies even match. It's all about Prima purple. So, oh, it's really purpley, isn't it? I kind of like it though. We might need to throw a bit of white in here to kind of balance it out, but I think these watercolor marbled flowers are brilliant. Let me zoom in. I forget I can move my camera in. Which one should we pick? Ooh, I love that one. But this one really matches. What do you guys think? Which one do you think we should go with? We could do the yellow or the pink, peachy purple one. Aren't they pretty? Seriously, Prima does the best flowers ever. Okay, we'll decide when we get going. So what we want to do is, I talked about foiling. So that's what we want to do first. We're going to start foiling a greeting on the bottom, and then we'll know where to put our other embellishments. And then I'm going to show you a little tip for using your scraps of foil to decorate your flowers and butterflies and pull everything together. So I have this pack of Adhesive Rub-ons. Just got to grab a scissors. And I really want to do Hope. I've already done a Love and a Joy, but I feel like, whoops, wrong one. I feel like these tags are something I could make and send to some people. We all have a lot of hurting people around us. And how cool would it be to get one of these tags in the mail? Just a little note how much you care about people. So we're going to remove the backing. And this is a Christine Adolph Adhesive Rub-on. And these are brand new. We just came out with these. You peel off the backing. You have this yellow, goldish kind of sentiment. And I'm bringing it all the way down. And then you want to burnish it on. And you can kind of tell it turns a darker yellow when you do that. So rub it in good. Now, when you're applying it to textured paper, you really want to rub hard because, and our watercolor paper is textured, just to make sure you get into all the little grooves. If something isn't sticking, you're going to know when you go to peel up that transparency. You'll see, look, clear means good. We're good to go. Now that is sticky. Anything I said on that right now is going to stick to it. So what I'm doing, I have silver paper. And you know what? I totally rubbed off camera. So sorry about that. I zoomed in too far. So I have silver paper, and I'm just going to go ahead and set that on there and then burnish that on. And you can see the words starting to appear, sort of. If I can see it appear. When you do it, you're going to see it too. Might be a bit hard to see on the camera. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Do you see that word starting to pop out? Okay. So we have that, and we're pulling it off. Now, if there are any areas you feel that were missed. Maybe I had, well, I'm using an older sheet. But all you have to do is bring the silver foil back on. It is a rub-on foil. And just press, and it will pick up wherever it missed. It's super cool that way, so it's really fail-proof. All right, I have that on. It looks great on there. Foily, fun. And now what we're going to do is take the foil, and we're going to add it to our butterfly and one or two of the flowers. So I'm looking at this going, I think I'm going with the yellow. I don't know. Ooh, look at both of those colors. I just felt it needed some white in there, but I'm not sure. While I'm thinking about that, let's go ahead and start foiling the butterfly. So what you want to do is get a piece of plastic. I just use packaging I'm going to throw away. And you want a little bit of adhesive. Now I use Fabri-Tac. Whatever you do for this step, it is going to get a little messy. Your fingers are. But it's okay. I'm going to just take a little bit of that on my finger and just brush it onto the butterfly itself. Now, it does dry fairly quickly when you're rubbing it like this. For some reason, I think it dries faster than any other. So I have it on there. It's okay. I'm just going to rub my fingers clean. And if you rub them back and forth, it rolls off like the masking fluid's supposed to roll off. Now I'm taking my used foil, and it doesn't have to be a piece that's solid, because we're going with a grungy random effect here. Okay, that was probably too random. I may have let my glue dry too quickly. Well, that side worked out perfectly. And I will try to stay in camera better. So what I want to do is go back where I missed and just go ahead and rub some more of the Fabri-Tac on there and get that foil on there. See how random that is? I love it because it's not perfect. It doesn't cover the whole butterfly. It just covers bits and pieces. And I just think that is so cool. All right, so we have our butterfly done. And we're going to go ahead and do one of the flowers, which I haven't decided what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and put it on this one. I think that'd be cool. So we voted on what? The pink and yellow smaller flowers. Is that what we voted on, guys? So again, I'm taking a little bit of the Fabri-Tac and I'm brushing the tips of this. You know, the more you put on, the more foil it's going to grab. So if you're Carrie, you're going to want tons of foil because she just puts tons of stuff on. But if you are very, you know, you don't like a ton of bling, you're going to just put a little bit on. Normally I clean my fingers before I put the foil on, but just to speed stuff up. I mean, seriously, this technique looks like a mess. It doesn't look like it would even work, but it's so fun. I was going to throw a piece of foil away because I had used so much of it and thought, hey, I'm going to just try this and see what it does. So look at that. It's just very random and just kissed here and there with a bit of the silver, but not too much. All right, I think I got voted. Is that what you guys voted on? I have to pick on Carrie a little bit. That girl, she does. She loves a lot of bling bling on her stuff. Is that true? Okay, are these the colors we're going with? Do we want to put a little bit more silver on one of those flowers? No, we're not going to because we didn't do the leaves. Hello? All right, we have to pick out 3 leaves. So I'm just going to pick 3 that match because that's how I am. And we're going to just kiss the tips of that with glue and kiss the tips with a bit of foil. I'm using kissing because I think it's a great description for adding just a bit of this touch to them. And I know your fingers get messy. But Fabri-Tac rubs off really easily. All right, so again, get a little bit on your finger, rub the edges, and then go in there with your foil. Sometimes when I first started doing this, it wasn't sticking at all. So if it isn't, you just didn't get enough of the Fabri-Tac on, which I didn't this time. So just go back in there and brush a little bit more on. You can use a brush to do this, but I felt like that wrecked the brushes, and my fingers I can wash very easily. So there I have just a kiss of the silver on the tips of this leaf, and it looks so cool. So let me quickly do this with the other two. And that's how you pull all these mismatched flowers and odds and ends you have lying around. You pull that all together by just putting a touch of the silver foil on all of them. Okay, I'm much more of a perfectionist when I'm not in a hurry. So your leaves will be absolutely perfect. And again, don't throw your foil out. You can see I'm using a piece that has been used multiple times, but I still can get a touch of the foil on it, and it's a bit more random this way, which I really, really like. I don't want the whole leaf covered in silver. I did have with this one leaf design in particular, there's all these little holes, and sometimes the glue will make little spider webs in there. Does that make sense? You can just poke those out with a needle or your poking tool. I had that happen with some. All right, I have everything. I was going to say gilded, but it's actually silver. And look at my sheet. I am not throwing this baby away. I'm still getting lots of use out of it. So all we have to do now is put this together. And I'm basically going to copy the same layout I have on this one. Before I glue everything on, I want to grab our vellum. Okay, I'm rubbing that glue off my finger because I didn't clean it in between. So I got this big glob of glue on my finger. But it rubs off pretty nicely. Okay, I got everything here. We came out with gold and silver vellum, and I love it. I think this adds the perfect little touch of elegance to your tag or your cards. So I'm freehanding this. I'm just going to set the tag on and get a skinny border. Maybe it's like a 1/4 inch around. And I love my pinking shears, but this would work with any of your decorative scissors. Like if you stocked up back 10 years ago when everybody had them, this is a great technique for using those scissors. All right, so use gold or silver vellum depending on what foil you're going to use. This one has gold, so it really pulls it all together. This one over here I used the silver on. And you can see I used the silver foils too. So this one we went with silver. We're going to go ahead and glue this tag. Right onto the vellum. Okay, and we're going to start decorating. So we have a butterfly. I gotta grab my foam squares. I like to pop my butterfly up a little bit. I don't want him just laying flat there. So we're gonna take a foam square or two and put it right there. Peel that backing off. This gives him a little bit of movement, so he looks like he's taking off from the ground. He's not just sitting there asleep. So I added a bit of Fabri-Tac, and Mr. Butterfly is going to go up there. And look, he's much more dimensional this way. Love it. Okay, our main flower is going to go about right here. And I like to kind of dry fit everything before I go in and secure it all down. But I think this looks good right there. So we're going to tuck in some leaves and maybe some other flowers. Depends on what else I got lying around in my basket. Okay. I hope these were the flowers you guys picked. I really am not watching the chat, so if you picked the white one, I apologize. Okay, now the leaves are a bit long, so just a little tip when you're making cards or you want it not sticking out so far, trim off what you don't want. I only glue the base that's going tucked in underneath because I want to be able to curl my leaves up and create a little bit more lift with them. All right, so let's trim off a bit of this one. And this one's going to go down here. We don't want to cover up the word. So I'm just sticking this. I think that's good. I'll like crinkle it a little so it doesn't cover up too much. And then the last one, go ahead and trim some off. Add a bit of Fabri-Tac right there and slide it under. And then my flowers are shifting, I can see, but I'm going to just scooch them all back in together. So I have a really nice little triangle going with the flowers and everything. You know, some of them, I tucked in some extra flowers on this one, but you really don't need that. My other one doesn't have those extra flowers. But what I did do is, because it kind of has a really fun watercolor look, I grabbed some sequins, and these are, I know someone's got to find me a better way to glue sequins, but what I do is I kind of cheat a bit and I squeeze a bit of my Fabri-Tac out, just a little dot. I'll pick up my sequins, is that focusing, and just run it through a tiny little bit. And then I start adding them in. I think there's a little device tool that you can get that picks these up, picks the little items up better. And I totally need to get it. So we're just going to throw a couple in. You know what this reminds me of? The bokeh effect that was so popular for so long. I think these shimmery sequins kind of create that effect on the tag. So I'm just going to add a couple more. And I try to do an odd number, so I'm at an odd number. I'm going to stop. But that's a great way to kind of fill in those little areas. Wait, that's just sitting there. I got them stuck on my finger. And that is a totally different look, created just with different flowers and different watercolor. All right, so any questions on this? What do you guys think of the masked resist effect? I'm just going to back the camera up a little bit so you can see all the tags in action. We did the purple one just now, but the other two were done before. So the techniques we went over today, we're creating a resist masked backdrop, and for writing we used the clear gesso plus the soft gel and did 2 coats, and it creates a beautiful this is all freehand, so you could totally lightly trace with a pencil your design or practice whatever you like to do. If you want to do it with Stencil, use the 3D gel and mix it equal parts with the clear gesso, and you'll create a beautiful embossed look. Okay, and then we of course did it with our tags, but then we went and we foiled things using bits and pieces of the foil and using a Fabri-Tac as the adhesive and a little bit of silver, and that was so fun to do. You could totally do it on cutout butterflies, and that's why I had butterflies, so I could show you how you can go in and just add a bit of glimmer to your butterfly. Or you could coat the whole thing with adhesive and do the whole butterfly and get a really pretty silvery butterfly. And these are dies we did with Sizzix. So the leaves are Prima and the butterflies are Prima and Sizzix together. All right, so do you guys have any questions? I really want to thank you for coming today. I hope you learned a lot. I had so much fun just trying things out and prepping this class. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. The failures aren't so nice at the time, but you really do learn a lot when you're playing around with the art mediums. So if we don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everyone. Don't forget we have Live with Prima Thursday night at 6:30 Pacific time with Delana. She's going to rock an album that she's creating. And we have Art Venture Seaside coming up. And we're going to have Live with Prima minis. So don't miss any of that. But thanks for coming. I hope you liked the magical effect on these Valentine's Day tags. Pull out your Prima supplies and just have fun. We'd love for you to share with us what you make on any of our social media. And every day we have a blog post during the week on prima.typepad.com. So check out us and share your projects. We love to see what you're making. All right. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop record. And then I'll be on the chat if you have questions.